All right, Kevin, back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Ken Berenger. Ken, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today,
Great
man.
to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, we we, we went to a couple iterations of making this happen, and I'm like everything happens in perfect timing. But man, I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, well, it's always something happens, right? I had problems in areas I never had areas. So the delightful consequence of being busy is sometimes you're actually busy.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah, things happen. But no, I'm glad to be here. I'm really thrilled to talk with you.
Absolutely. And I want to start out, I want to give a shout out to Stephen Hall because without Stephen, you and I probably wouldn't even be talking. He was the one that connected us. And what a powerful testament to the power of relationships right there,
Sure.
which
Sure.
is, of course, what this podcast is all about.
Yeah.
And so, what I would like to do is, I want to start by, I want to turn it over to you, Ken, so that we can give you an opportunity to share. I want to set some context and let the listeners know a little bit about who you are, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work you're doing and the impact you're making, and give us some of that backstory about getting bitten by that spider and stuff
The
too. And so,
radioactive spider. I think that's someone else's story.
oh, maybe it is.
Yeah. I don't want to plagiarize.
Okay, we'll just tell your story.
Okay. Well, my name is Ken Berenger. I'm the founder of a company called Takeoff. I'm also the co-chairman and co-creator of a hopefully soon to be public company called Water on Demand. But we're here to talk about Takeoff.
Okay.
In my 35-year career, it has spanned a variety of finance related. I worked on Wall Street back in the 90s. I was a retail stockbroker, smiling and dialing. That was interesting.
Mhm.
They've made a few movies about that sort of thing.
Yes, they have.
And yeah, they have. And they might have made a character out of me. Um, but that was a great foundation for learning business from a real outsider's point of view. I was just a kid from Long Island, New York, right? And I walked into this big giant boardroom on Wall Street, and I was like, wow, right? And was working with old guys, meaning guys like my age now.
Mhm.
Or really, I'm in my, I'll be 58 next month. So I was ancient actually. There's probably guys in their 40s that seemed like old guys. Um, and I became a sponge. I listened, and I absorbed a lot. And somewhere along the line, I believe there's a competency scale. You start out every job where you're unconsciously incompetent.
Mhm.
You don't know what you're doing, and you don't even know what you don't know. And it's actually not even that scared because you have no idea what you're doing, and
Yeah.
you don't even know how bad you suck, right? Then you hit that conscious incompetence, which is right at like that's that first week, and you go, oh boy. And that's the guy that says, I'm going to lunch and never comes back. You've had those in the workplace, right? The new
Yeah,
guy, his
totally.
first, second day, third day, he's kind of doesn't look real happy to be there. And then says, I'm going to go out and bring my library book back. And, he never comes back. And that's a scary time for people learning something new. And everything I did was really something new. I was never, I was blessed enough later on to be able to kind of pull resources from my prior experiences into my current reality. So I spent about 10 years working on Wall Street. And I ended up training some of the top producers in that space at the time in the 90s. And being a retail broker kind of went away. It became the online trading thing, or it became managed money. So you had to be managing $100 million for you to successfully earn a career, kind of starting from scratch, building a book. If you're already married with children, you should have done it when you were 24 because you really can't do it when you're 34. So I started a variety of entrepreneurial-based businesses. I worked extensively in real estate financing for a while. Again, trained a lot of the folks there how to present opportunities to. And I learned, look, what I learned on Wall Street was how to package and present very, very complex ideas very succinctly and very quickly because people don't have 40 minutes to talk about it, right?
Mhm.
Can you break it down in 3, 4, 5 minutes? Can you create value? Can you enable the prospect to see what you see? Okay, but if it's your idea, it's a bad idea. If it's their idea, it's a great idea.
That's right.
So
That's right.
it's also being able to impart that idea to them and say, "Do you see it? Yes, I see it." Right. So that's something I was able to, and I don't think many people actually learn that. I think it's an 80-20 rule. 80% of the people operate, you go from unconscious incompetence to the part where you leave incompetence, conscious incompetence. Then you get to conscious competence. Conscious competence is where 80% of professionals work. They're very good at what they do. If they come prepared and they do their job and they work hard, they can earn great. And that's from doctors, lawyers, the gamut, and all kinds of business associates. And then you get the blessed few who are unconsciously competent. They can almost act intuitively. Now, these can either be your top producers or the guys you want to strangle because they're so talented and they won't work, right? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, is what I used to teach my pupils, in sales training. So my Wall Street experience, fast forward, a lot of people had a minor influence on me because I guess I was a kid, so it was easy to kind of latch on and idolize people, right? They turns out as an older man, they weren't all great people. Okay, move on. But you saw little pieces of them, and just take the pieces you want to be. Leave the crap, just take the little pieces, right? And everybody has some redeeming qualities. Just you have to pick them out. So I went into a bunch of entrepreneurial stuff, as I had mentioned, and real estate financing, trained all the guys, in the mortgage and finance business. I ended up starting a company that worked with law firms to help, this was during the housing crisis. So the mortgage business set up the housing crisis. They were doing no income, no asset verification loans to people that, they were claiming made $300,000 a year. It was like, what could possibly
If you got a
go?
pulse, you can have a loan.
I mean, you're a chef. I mean, you're a sous chef. I mean, I'm sorry, you're a dishwasher. You're a sous chef, right? So, and here I was in my 30s at this point going, yeah, this isn't good. This isn't going to work. So, of course, that collapsed. And then I created a company, one of the first and most robust of its kind at the time in the, 2008-ish, 2010-ish period in that major foreclosure boom, working with lender litigation law firms to help fight foreclosures for people who were victims of the MERS, the robo signing, and it wasn't to get their homes free. It was for them to hire an attorney to bring about a resolution where they could stay in their home, for a relatively, with a relatively affordable payment. And to my credit, thank God, I was able to save several hundred homes, and I earned a great living at the time. So there was a diversity of experience in what type of prospect you were dealing with, that sort of thing. And ran a number of individual businesses, mostly on the consumer level, right? Consumer level. And I was approached by someone I had been flown out to Pittsburgh, where I now live. I was on Long Island, flown out to Pittsburgh and asked by a guy, hey, would you train my sales force how to do what you do with the lender litigation stuff? I did. I thought nothing of it. He flew me out, whatever. I had kind of been doing some work as an elite sales trainer, given my background. So I'd go in front of rooms, and for a pretty handsome fee, I would teach their room how to kind of take on some semblance of what I did and give them some of my organizational principles. Talent was up to them, but structure was there. So I left and didn't think anything of it. A year later, I get a phone call from the same guy who had flown me out and said, hey, it's Mike. How you doing? Listen, I'm a president of a public company, biotech company. We really need trouble. We're really in trouble. We really need capital. Would you raise money for us? I had a business that was just paying me, right? So I had some wiggle room, and I hadn't done that in a long time. And I don't know why. I'm driving, the top is off. For anyone who knows the area, I'm on the Long Island Expressway, pronounced Long Island, by the way. And I went, sure. I don't even know why I said yes. But that was God, right? Basically, without thinking. So I began raising capital, and I was happy. It was a unique technology that had the ability to potentially change everything if they could get through the regulatory hurdles. raised, $6-7 million for them in a fairly short period of time. Got to a place where my contract was up, and I was approached by a fellow that you interviewed, Riggs Eckelberry,
Mhm.
through a mutual friend. Again, my relationships, right? So these were guys I worked with on Wall Street,
Yeah.
introducing me to people. I wasn't asking for them. They're going, Ken, I want you to speak to this guy. Ken, I want they had kind of caught on to the fact that I was doing a lot of elite sales training, that I had an income that was kind of rolling on its own. So I was doing fun stuff I enjoyed.
Mhm.
I love teaching uh, sales because I get better every time I do it. I go, oh, I
Mhm.
forgot that. That's
Yeah.
really good, right?
Yeah.
So it's like anything else. When you give, you receive far more than you think.
That's right. That's right.
Um, and I don't want to treat it like it's all altruism. I was being paid, but I was still giving of my knowledge and experience, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I was approached by Riggs. He had a pubco, and he said, "You want to raise money for me? Oh, you want to do it?" And I said, "Okay, here's what I want." And I laid it out, and we took a company. So I created. Now I had been doing this for 5-6 years, right?
Okay.
But I did it in the bad old days, where you had cold callers in call centers calling up potential investors like me, saying, "Mr. Berenger, we have an opportunity. The name of the company is this. Would you take a look at the PPM? Would you consider investing?" Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, I would call them up and, kind of lay out the value prop to see if they'd invest in it. That worked for a while until COVID. And then, of course, everything collapsed. So I developed, but over the years, I was hiring firm after firm after firm. I kept trying to automate it. I had
Mhm.
people that were calling me. Now I'm a VP of business development. I'm an executive vice president of this pubco. I've got a day job, and I'm getting phone calls from hey, would you raise money for me? I really need you. Can you do this? Can you come train my guy? No, I can't do that. I have a day job. But I realized that the demand out there for early companies to get capital was far greater than the people that had the capacity to get them started rapidly,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And people with that talent level walk in and demand big money, right?
Mhm.
So to hire an elite sales trainer, anybody with 25, 30 years of experience who's raised $10 million on his own, I mean, that guy's $300,000, $400,000 to walk in the door,
Mhm.
right? Well,
Mhm.
they're an early company without money. They probably can't do that,
They don't
right?
have that. Yeah.
So, and I was getting these phone calls, and I was offered a lot of money, but at the end, I was on a mission. I had created a second company, spun it off, became co-chairman, co-founder, working that towards NASDAQ. I was super busy, but I saw the need. And you know what? The 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 cure for cancer potentially is out there. I don't want it dying on a shelf because the guy took out a $500,000 line of credit on his home and said, "I'm going to get this," and then ran out of money.
Mhm.
So now he's got an idea that failed. The cancer cure never happens, and now he's got a house in foreclosure, right? There are 300,000 businesses in America that fail every year just because of finance. In other words, it's not because they can't run. It's not because they don't have a great idea. That's not because they can't potentially change the world. It's because they ran out of money. Now, I had been developing a way. I was hiring all these firms. I spent $2 million over a 5 or 6 year time frame kissing frogs, hiring firms. I'm going to send out emails to reach your investors. We're going to run a call center. We're going to do digital marketing. We're going to do X. We're going to do Facebook. We're going to do Instagram. 50,000, 100,000, 50,000, 100,000, 50. It was $2 million later. And each one of them had just enough value in what they did that they could sell it and look at themselves in the mirror, but they could never deliver because unless you have a high level and a high affinity to be able to speak to investors and help them come to an investment decision, all the leads in the world don't mean anything, and most of the leads were no good. So each
Mhm.
modality in and of itself didn't work. Okay. But when you took the piece that did and in aggregate and you built a complete machine, you have the Takeoff platform, the runway platform by Takeoff. So Takeoff is a fully automated soup to nuts answer. So a guy has I'll give you one example in a second, but
Okay.
guy has an idea he thinks can be $1 billion company. He's got his friends and family round done. He's got a couple $100,000 done, but there's no way he can raise $20 million. There's no way he can do it. You don't have that many friends, right? So, what this does is from the first dollar, potentially up to $50 million for that company to reach an exit, a NASDAQ listing, an acquisition, whatever. Takeoff takes everything that I've learned for 20 years, actually 35 if you really want to be specific, but specifically in the previous decade or so. And what I did is I built an automated platform that utilized all those contact methods, text, email, outbound calling, digital marketing to reach the prospects. And more importantly, what most of these guys who are raising money will tell you that they'll sit in front of a computer all day. They have 10 appointments and one shows. And the guy who shows up goes, so what do you do? Oh, right. So you blew the whole day. Now you're trying to run a company and do this. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I created this methodology where it was really informing the investor prospect. So they really knew what they were getting. So I put together, and this is something I've crafted and perfected over 35 years. It's not perfect, but it's getting there. And how to present the big idea and how to present it in a way where the prospective investor understands the value prop, they understand the risk, they understand the upside, and if it makes sense, they go for it. Now, I present this in a recording because look, the reality is when you present an investment opportunity, you basically are presenting it to them, and then you're allowing them to come back and say, okay, I'm going to do due diligence. I'll come back for a second call. That's the call that matters. Right? So having them not show up all day to the first call was a killer. So what I do is I video recorded. So for the public company, I created the platform of Takeoff. This was a company that was in deep trouble financially. I created the Takeoff platform. We launched it, emails, phone calls, people working. I presented the idea in a recorded page. Hi, my name is Ken Berenger. Thank you for joining. Let me tell you about it, blah, 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 blah. No, nobody makes their decision based on that, but they now know it's not for me. Or, you know what? I'm interested. I got 5 questions. If you can answer those in the live call, I think I'm going to do it. And I distilled those appointments down to real, honest, quality prospects, people who really understood the good and the bad and were ready to make a decision, provided we could address their concerns professionally. So that's what we did. And happily, I raised about $15-16 million for that pubco. And then, of course, we graduated a new company, which we then are now in the process of taking to NASDAQ. And I've been very, very happy to announce the same Takeoff system. I raised $15 million or so, about $15.5 million for that. And I'm just getting started. So Takeoff took 2 companies that I spent millions of dollars getting everything wrong, right? And basically took everything that was right and created we're the only service in the world from the first dollar to 50 million. Now, the new thing is we're now able to bring companies into, potentially, if they're of the right caliber, qualified opportunity zones.
Okay.
We're working on a contract now. It's not done yet. So a little bit of disclaimer there, but we've received the contract. Hang on one second. Bear with me.
Okay.
So where was I? So now we took that methodology.
Yep.
We've proven it on the battlefield, right? It's battle tested. $15 million for 2 companies that were really pure aspiration in the beginning, right? Now they're getting there, right? But these were aspirational plays. Supported them with about $15 million of capital each. One has given birth to a series of business units that have formulated what now can be one of the next great asset classes in the world. And that is making its way on its path towards a national market listing. So now I have something. Now I can clone me. So remember, he kept saying, Ken, I could hire you. I said, you can't hire me.
Yeah.
Well, now you can,
Yeah.
because I can still keep my day job, which is running one public company, one soon-to-be public company. But the methodology is the same. Get the really great. So we're working with one company right now, which is a fast channel streaming service called American Stories Entertainment.
Okay.
He can grow this to $1 billion property. He's figured out how to create a television. He's already got one hit called Surviving Man. He's created a way to have a show profitable before it even goes on.
Wow.
Okay, using
Wow.
integrated advertisers,
Mhm.
right? They basically pay for the production. Then you put it up there. You develop an audience of a couple 100,000 people. Then you add advertisers.
Mhm.
Then you add licensing. Then you add merchandising. So he has a handful of shows right now. He wants to go to 100 shows by the end of next year and go to NASDAQ. At 100 shows, the company would have a potential multi-billion dollar market cap. So
Okay.
I'm now proudly helping them raise their first capital. Incidentally, this is the breaking news. I've signed a co-production agreement with that company, American Stories, for a new hit show, I think called The Raise.
Okay. Okay.
Now, it's going to follow around a specific guy, a guy I know,
Uh-huh.
as he
Uh-huh.
interviews these companies. So I'm taking in companies every day. I'm interviewing them. So it's going to be kind of like a cross between picture somewhere between Shark Tank and The Apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But you get to see their dreams, right? And some are going to make it, some aren't, right? But we're going to be able to do that. And we're going to be able to feature these companies on the show
Yeah.
that we're working through Takeoff. So that's huge, right? And there's a real possibility that some of these companies, I'm working on a contract right now, that after the first 5-10 million, now what do? Graduate them to a qualified opportunity zone if they're in, obviously they have to be in, but there's tons of opportunity zones around the country. So they can put their offering in front of people there's $9.6 trillion of capital gains in 2024. You may wonder how the hell that happened. How did people make that much money? But it happened, right? Qualified opportunity zones allows you have 180 days to now deploy that capital into other ideas.
Okay.
Right. And not pay capital gains tax. So the appetite for that is chunks of money. So, prove you can execute on your business plan and then move forward and get kind of almost like a quasi-institutional type raise.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. Now, the other one is also exciting. It's a company called Spotted Early. They have very far along, brilliant scientific team. They've developed a combination of canine olfactory senses and AI to be able to detect volatile organic compounds in your breath to tell you what kind of cancer you have.
Wow.
Breathing into a mask.
Wow.
This can be part of every annual physical in 10 years if they can get this through FDA.
Mm-hmm.
The market on this, so early detection takes survivability for cancers from 10% to 90.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody wants to get that early test. Nobody wants to go to the bathroom in a box, right? They don't want to do it, right? Breathing, you can make treating or detecting cancer as easy as breathing. So so these are things that can change everything. These are things that can truly change the world.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm so proud of what we're doing. And we're now interviewing 6 other companies. I mentioned a couple. I don't want to mention them all because they're still kind of early. But we're interviewing 6 other companies to add to the Takeoff platform. It is my hope and goal to have several dozen companies in my pipeline, giving them their chance, giving them their opportunity to execute. And that's the fun part of my day.
Wow. Wow. How awesome is that? I'm sure right now there's people listening to this. Hold on here. Okay. That they're probably curious to know more. And we'll make sure we give them an opportunity for that and stuff. But now that we've got, man, that was really good, Ken. I'm already like thinking of like, oh,
I
because
talk for a living. I mean, it's not that hard, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But to talk about the relationships, okay? Um, so I founded this company, Takeoff, with the CEO of the public company that I worked for.
Okay.
I co-founded the second company with him. I he's now part of this venture. Riggs, who you know,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
Um, AJ, who you've met, AJ
Yeah.
Fikes. AJ
Yeah.
Fikes is a business relationship that started out as a personal relationship. I was a cub master for my 10-year-old or an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10.
Okay.
So I was the cub master, right? So I had 54 8-year-old boys. I get
Nice.
them at night when the medication wears off, right? It's fun.
I can only
So,
imagine.
right? So,
I was sitting
uh,
here just taking all that
and
in.
I was recruited by the previous guy because he saw me come into the meeting. He goes, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I basically yell at people for a living." He goes, "I have a job for you."
I got
So,
a job.
uh, yeah. So anyway, but I observed this young man. He became leadership in the Cub Scout pack, and
Okay.
he's called what's called the committee chair. Now the committee chair is the most important job. But I saw the way he organized. He's a project manager, and he was brilliant with technology. And I just sat back and observed. So after a couple of weeks, I went up to him. I said, "What do you do for a living?" And he told me, "I'm in tech and project management, marketing." I said, "Would you like a job?" And of course, the rest is history. I need you to pause that 1 second.
Okay.
So you have to excuse me. I keep getting up. So my wife was supposed to, I'm at my office. My
Uh-huh.
wife is supposed to pick up my dog. I have a 5-month-old puppy,
Okay.
and he's chewing everything.
Gotcha.
He had to leave a while ago, and he's still here. And I haven't paid attention to him. I'll introduce you real quick. This is Aslan,
Oh, nice. That is a nice puppy right there.
5 months old, 90 pounds,
Yep.
and he's a darling, but right now he's bored, so he's crushing everything in my office. Anyway,
Uh-huh. Yep.
um,
I can totally relate because we got pets too, and I get it. I get it 100%.
I love him, but I want to. Okay. So, talking about the relationships, the things that inspire me, if I can come up with a way to truly allow world changing developments to have I can't guarantee their success, honestly, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I can give them that fighting chance,
Mhm.
these were ideas that were either going to be, they're going to die on that shelf with the guy with the mortgage,
Yep. Yep.
or they're going to be swallowed up by a VC firm,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Or a competitor and buried, right? So what we're doing is there are 300,000 companies that closed last year that maybe didn't have to, because maybe they were the next cure for cancer, God willing, right? Or something really earth changing like that, world changing like that. But to be able to develop a methodology to raise the first 5, 10, $15 million for these companies, and then potentially go to the much larger level through these zone funds. I believe the impact we can have on American entrepreneurism over the next 10 years with Takeoff cannot be overstated.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exciting.
It is exciting. That is exciting. Yeah. Wow. You know, I um well, first of all, I mean, so you mentioned, Riggs and your partner in this, and I want to make sure there's not any other relationships that you want to honor before I kind of go in a different direction
I
here.
mean, the guy who gave me my first job,
Uh-huh.
I mean, he saw something in me. The most important relationship, the most important earthly relationship I have is with my wife and children.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
the reason I do at 58
Amen.
years old, I'm doing 15-hour days, right?
Yeah.
I want to build a life for them where they don't have to look. We all did it, laying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, going, "How am I going to make this work?
Mhm.
How am I going to pull that? How am I going to pull that off?" We all did that.
Yeah.
I spent far too. I used to have no gray hair. I mean, we all spend far too many days, months, years of our life with that constant worry. Not that we were not incapable. Would God give us the chance, right? And more times than not, He did. We didn't always pay attention,
Mhm.
but He did.
Mhm.
But the the relationship I'd like to honor most is with my Lord, right? Because without Him, none of this stuff would have happened.
Yeah,
None of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so I want to thank you so much for taking the time
Of course.
to come here today and just share your experience and talk about these relationships and for anybody that's listening to this, because I know that there's people listening to this going, man, Kev, I really like Ken. I like how he shows up. I like how he just speaks so openly and candidly. And I'm really curious about learning more about what the heck these guys are up to, because they're up to something.
Right.
And for anybody that's kind of thinking that, what let's make sure we share
Right.
any resource, any websites with them. So
Yes, you can follow me on X. I call myself a practitioner of asymmetrical wealth building.
okay, all
How's
right,
that? Okay. Asymmetrical wealth is simply these early opportunities are what made billionaires. Now, you don't want to couch surf for the next 5 years and not make payroll like they did. But if you can find the right opportunities and invest in them at an early enough stage, you can have that life altering wealth creation event. I talk a lot about that on my X feed. So it's at Ken Berenger. But
okay,
if you are an early stage company and you have $1 billion idea, and I don't want, look, it's all great if you make what you think is the best ice cream. I'm talking about stuff that changes the world, right?
Mhm.
If you have a thing that can be $1 billion idea and you don't know how you're going to get the first 5 million or the next 50, you can go to takeoff2succeed.com. And if you're looking for these asymmetrical wealth opportunities, I'm going to be presenting them through the Takeoff platform. One of them right now, you can go to Water on Demand. It's offer.waterondemand.net.
Offer.waterondemand.net. Okay,
Correct.
okay,
So to understand, to think about asymmetrical wealth building, we are turning water treatment technology into the world's next major asset class. Picture water that pays investors like real estate or oil and gas, but you're treating water. That's what we're creating. It's
wow,
very exciting stuff.
wow, wow. Well, once again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today, Ken, and just share all that you shared. And for I just
Well, I
want
hope I didn't disappoint.
you did not disappoint. You did not disappoint at all. And
Even with constantly reaching over and shooing
that's
my dog away.
that's real life. That's
I know
real
I
life.
have to bring them to the
Yeah.
office because my kids are at karate. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
All right.
And yeah, I just love seeing, especially when you walked away and I could see all the pictures and stuff behind, because it's family, man. It's all family.
They're my go button.
Yeah,
They are my go button.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I can relate because you and I have the same priorities. I'm husband and father to 7 kids, and we got 6 pets in this household,
I
three
only have
cats and three
three. That's
dogs.
7. My goodness. God bless you. That's great.
And so
That's
so
great.
all the stuff you're dealing with right now, and that dog, and that dog's a beautiful dog, but you know what, this is
Wait till
just
he's
real
full
life.
grown, the
Yeah,
havoc he can
right,
wreak. Yeah.
right. Well, any last thing you feel led to share before we call it a wrap, Ken?
Yes. Um, to anybody who is approaching entrepreneurism and doesn't know, is this the right thing? Do it.
Mhm.
Ready, shoot, aim.
Amen.
Do it, then
Yeah.
fix it. Then
Yeah.
do it again. Then fix it again. Then do it a third time. Then fix it a third time. Every time your new iteration will just be a little bit better and you'll get
That's
closer
right.
and closer and closer to the mark.
That's
Do
right.
not quit. Do not quit. And there are brilliant people all around you who can who can actually help you on that journey. And you can enrich, you can help make them wealthy.
Yeah.
You can help personally. There's a talent pool. They're stuck in jobs. They don't want to, they show up. They work hard, but they're brilliant and they have aspirations, but they haven't been able to break out of the box. AJ was one of those guys. He worked in corporate America. And one of the words I said to him, I said, he goes, I said, one thing you have to learn, know your worth. First thing you have to do, I won't say the word I said, but get in the blank room. Get in the room. All right? Because you're smart and you're talented, that'll come out. People will recognize it.
Yeah.
So now AJ can't go back to corporate. I don't know if his wife's happy about it. There was some security and safety in that, but he has an opportunity to have a transformational event now. And he's a brilliant partner and he's been wonderful. I couldn't even have takeoff was a concept without the technological wizardry of AJ. Okay, so he completed me. He took my talent. He was able to magnify, what God gave me and systematize it in a way that was impossible 10 years ago and impossible today without him. So if you're an entrepreneur out there and you think you can't do it, I guarantee you can't if you don't try.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
You'll miss 100% of the swings you don't take.
Absolutely.
So get out there and do it, mess it up, and then fix it.
Yes.
That's my wisdom to you today.
Amen. Amen. Well, Ken, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. I'm really excited to get out there and share with a lot of other people. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. Great seeing you.
You too.
Bye now.
Bye.